first, and then we're gonna go live on Facebook, and we'll say continue. Okay, let's see, it's going where? Not at Zerqa Abid. Connected to the not Zerqa Abid. No, that's not what I want to do. No, sorry, it's not letting me. It's not letting, oh, let me close this back and going in, Zoom again. And I am gonna go live on Workplace by Facebook. Let's see if that allows me to do that. Oh, that's not true too. So can you take that, Ajmeri? Thank you. Okay, so I think I need to go on Facebook first and be as my project USA. Okay, my project USA, change that. Sorry about that issue. And then live on Facebook. Okay. Switching account. No, I don't want to switch the account. Seriously, I don't want to change the account. Yes, I'm gonna go as my project USA. And so it's automatically keep changing me to the live account of myself instead of letting me do it as my project USA. What do you guys suggest? Should I start as my, I don't want, what we can do, we can start at my as Zerqa and then share on my project USA. That live.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I don't know why it's doing this. This is something beyond my control.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not letting me. Okay, last try, live on Facebook, continue. Okay, connected, Women on Fire. Share on your own timeline, share to your page. Okay. And which page? Now it gave me options. My project USA. Okay, good. Alhamdulillah. Okay, going live now. Is everybody ready?
Yes. Are we ready?
It's getting there.
Just let me know when you want me to start.
I think we are online.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to My Project USA presents Women on Fire, Igniting the Path of Empowerment. I'm Sheryl Munson. I'm a judge here in Franklin County Court of Common Pleas General Division, and also a member of My Project USA Board of Directors and director of the My Justice Warrior Project. So today we are going to have a candid conversation about empowerment with women from different ethnic backgrounds as they share their struggles and their triumphs on their road to success. So as many of you or most of you know, March is Women's History Month. March 8th was International Women's Day. And while it is wonderful that we celebrate those things, here at My Project USA, we think it's important not just to talk about women's empowerment, but to actually empower women, and not to do it just 1 month or 1 day, but day in and day out all year round. So that's why we're here. That's why we're going to have this conversation. It's easy to talk about empowering women, but what does that actually look like? And that's the conversation that we're going to have today, the big question that we're going to address today. So we have our panel members here. I'm going to go around and we'll start with a panel member. We're going to allow her to introduce herself, talk to you a little bit, and then we're going to hear what she has to say about what are some instances when she felt empowered, and then also, equally important, instances when she did not feel empowered. And then once we get through that, we're going to go back around and get some suggestions from our panel members of what people can do, what specific actions people can take to empower women. And then, of course, we'd love to hear any questions or comments that you have. But for now, let's get started. We're going to begin with Katana Mullen. Katana is the Youth Program Director at My Project USA. Good morning, Katana. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hi, good morning, Judge Munson. My name is Katana Mullen, and I'm from Hinton, West Virginia, a really small town in rural West Virginia. I graduated from Bluefield University. It's a small liberal arts school in Bluefield, Virginia. I studied exercise sports science, but then I decided that I wanted to explore the nonprofit sector and local government opportunities through youth programming. But before all of that came about, living as a minority in small rural West Virginia had its challenges. And some of those challenges included racism, small town politics, things like that. And so those things weren't very empowering. I wasn't around people where I felt empowered. Also, just growing up in a very dysfunctional environment at home, I was exposed to homelessness and alcoholism, drug addiction, violence, all of those things I experienced as a child. My parents were not present. I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. I had to grow up very fast. And that was with very little guidance. So my experience as a child has most certainly shaped and molded me into the individual I am today. And I'm thankful, that I did, outside of my home life, I did have coaches, I did have mentors, I did have people that loved me and poured into me and believed in me to help me get out of those circumstances. So I would say I give big props to those people. Really thankful heart for those people who helped me get out of those situations.
And so, Katana, that's amazing. And of course, now you are Youth Program Director. So you're taking those experiences and turning back around to empower young people. Is that right? That's
right. That's absolutely right. I think that's where it all comes from. I was an athlete growing up. My grandmother made sure, ifs, ands, or buts, even though there was so much chaos going on around me, I had basketball as an outlet. So I played from the time I was in 5th grade all the way through college. I had a scholarship to play on the collegiate level. And in that, I developed a love for sports and everything sports medicine, sports management, all of that. I've worked camps and all that stuff with kids, but I felt like something was missing. I didn't feel like I was completely pursuing the purpose that, I had set out for my life. So I decided that I was going to take a risk, start working for a nonprofit, working with the at-risk youth close to the college that I went to. And when I did that, my life changed. And I realized in that moment that that was exactly what I was supposed to be doing. That was my way of giving back to my inner child, to those kids that don't have very good home lives, or they were growing up in environments where they weren't feeling seen or heard, or they didn't feel safe. And being able to give back and be able to relate in that capacity was monumental.
That's amazing. I mean, just, you can see from the expression on your face when you talk about that, your resilience and your happiness and giving back. So thank you so much for sharing with us, Katana. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And next, we're going to turn to our founder and executive director here at My Project USA, the amazing Zerqa Abid.
Thank you so very much for including me in this panel. I am so excited that we are doing this. My story is a little longer because I'm 54-year-old, so you can imagine that I have different phases in my life for sure. I do want to really kind of, shed some light of how different phases in my life have helped me where I am right now. So there are phases. I am, of course, I was born and raised in Pakistan in a middle class family where there are a lot of, people would be around and constant pressure on parents to say that, what are people gonna say if your daughter is doing this or that? And a lot of community pressures there. So I think I was very, very lucky. I've been so lucky that my parents were very educated and open-minded people. Not only that, my mother went and did masters in 1965 in University of Punjab, Lahore, which was a big deal at that time. But also my father was coming from a scholar family, but also very open-minded about girls' education. So I think what was very empowering for my early time when they were shaping me what I am today is that they really focused on public speaking. Public speaking was a big deal for them. So we did public speaking. Then they also were very much, my father raised me in an environment with full trust, never asking questions about, what I'm doing, where I'm going, but giving me that trust and that place and telling me what is honor and how I should be taking care of the honor instead of being bombarded by different things. He gave me choice if I wanted to cover or not. I was the first one to start wearing headscarf in my family at the age of 20 with my own choice. Nobody had done it before. People are doing it now. That's a different thing. I also had the choice to do what I wanted to be. So I didn't want to be a doctor. So when I didn't want to be a doctor, I was allowed not to be a doctor. So all of these things I think really shaped me. But the most important gift that my parents gave me was that they allowed me to be with boys, work them as a colleague, as a classmates. They were allowed, my friends from school were allowed to come. We would be able to talk to each other. We were able to mingle in front of the parents like we were. And this is a Pakistan middle class community where people would not allow that for their daughters because there was a big stigma. So I think that was very big empowerment part for my life and for rest of my career in what I do. The second phase I had was then I got married. And when I got married, my mother-in-law never went to school or college. So it was a huge difference in that whole, spectrum that where I was very supported for education, but then I was there for 6 years while I was waiting for my green card. My husband was here. I was stuck in an environment where they didn't understand that who I was, what my education need was. So that 6 years was not, I don't see them as an empowering. Actually, it was a lot of negativity. It was a lot of a struggle for myself. And I can see that. And I'm mentioning this now because not that my in-laws are not great, they are amazing. But at the same time, lots and lots of girls in our community go into this particular struggle when they get married. They are judged just for how they cook, how they take care of their family, how they just, do the housewife related thing, but their talent, their education, what kind of resource they could be for community is never been appreciated. And that's the just criteria people have for them. So that was a time about 6 years of my life. And then I came here in America. And boy, it changed. It was empowering. Number one credit goes to who I am today in that my adult life is my husband. He supported my education. He paid for my education. He made sure that I went to college here. I worked in MSNBC. And I did all of that while I was covering my face. I have worn face veil for 17 years, from 1989 to 2006, and I am proud that I displayed to my American friends, my colleagues, my professors in college, that a veiled woman can also be smart and very accomplished. So I did that, and who was empowering was all of my colleagues and at MSNBC, and my professors and classmates. So this was very, very good part of my professional career. And going forward, I am who I am right now, a nonprofit manager. I have ran a business, a TV channel. I have done my own international IT business and everything. And in all of that, if you ask me what was not empowering or what was a struggle I have seen myself is the misogyny and the patriarchal nature of our community. That has been a struggle. And I believe with where my project USA today is, it would have been even ahead We know that we have done so much, but we could have done so much more if the community has not been, or some people in the community has not been putting so much pressure and scrutinizing me constantly. But then there are people who also follow their lead, because unfortunately our community is so much patriarchal. When people come to me and say, oh, I love you and we empower, we love him, we love to empower women, this is the questions that constantly comes to us, that how, and is this, and I have seen some sisters, and I do want to point this out, that there are unfortunately a lot of women also in our community who also play a major role in pulling other sisters down, the sisters who are doing the work, the sisters who are getting things done. Unfortunately, there are women in our community who also, some of them are seen as leaders, but they actually side by these misogynists, this patriarchal kind of people, and they try to get us, like people who are advocating for women's rights, people who are actually trying to empower in real life, their girls and women, they side by the people because they want to be kind of a symbol of controlling what a traditional role of a woman in the community should be. And that is something that shouldn't be forced on people. I have worn veil, but I would never force it on anybody. This was my choice. I wanted to make a point, but it doesn't mean that we should be forcing. So there is like a good kind of, things. And I believe that probably those who empowered me and those who did not empower me at the time, they both have contributed to my successes in one way or the other. And I'm very grateful for where I am today.
That's amazing. And, Zerqa, of course, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a few years now. And then every time I hear you speak, I feel like I learn a little bit more about you and, all the depth and all the perspective. So I really like, what you're saying about, we empower all types of women, not just women that adhere or think like we do, maybe more or less traditional in our given cultures, but empowerment is about the freedom for them to be who they are. Is that what you would say?
Yes, 100%. As much as people want some women to not, to wear a certain kind of clothes, they should also allow the women who don't want to wear those clothes. I mean, and that's my message to all over the world. We have seen what happens in France. We have seen what is happening in other countries where women are forced to not to wear face veil or not to wear this. And then it came to the point in France, just, during pandemic, that it was illegal to wear face veil, and it was also illegal not to wear face mask, which doesn't make any sense, but it was happening. So this is something that, we really have to look into. If you're empowering, it should be the woman's choice. If she wants to wear a certain clothes or she doesn't, and we just need to give the respect to both instead of choose what we think is right or what we think it's not right.
Thank you. That's empowering just to hear you talk about that.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And next we're going to move on to Ajmeri Hoque. Ajmeri is a board member also with My Project USA and also an attorney here in Franklin County. So good morning, Ajmeri. Can you tell us, everyone, a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you. Good morning, Judge. I am Ajmeri, as Judge stated. I was born in Bangladesh and I moved to the US when I was 2 years old. My parents decided that this would be where they see their future. And I grew up in New York City. So my parents grew up in Bangladesh, which is a majority Muslim country. However, it's a pretty liberal Muslim country. It was always headed by women prime ministers. They've never actually had a male prime minister from my knowledge, but they've had several women prime ministers. So they were my parents were very passionate about me getting a good education here. However, I had a lot of struggle growing up here because they didn't know the culture. They didn't know the culture of growing up in the US. They just thought that if I came, if I was going to school here, that was it. If you go to school in America, that's it. And there was a lot of disconnect between me and my parents growing up. And then also, we moved a lot. When I was 12 years old, we moved to a small town in Connecticut, and I was the first brown person in my school. And we were the first Muslim family in that town. And then a few years later, we moved to a really, really small town in Bible Belt, Florida. And I don't think they've ever seen a Muslim person before us. And then 9/11 happened while I was there. So that was a struggle. And it was a very difficult thing for my parents to understand what I was going through. And a lot of it I hid growing up because there's no communicating what you don't understand at that point. Because I also, as a child, did not know how to communicate what was going on. At one point, there was a school counselor in Florida who did not want me to take honors classes because they thought I would be more comfortable in lower level classes. And when I went to those classes, I realized there was a big racial divide. A lot of the Black folks in that community were in the lower level classes, and a lot of the white folks in the community were in the honors level classes. I had to fight and argue to get into the honors level classes in that community. And I still remember that nobody in my family knew that I had to do that. Nobody in my community knew I had to do that because they just assumed you're in the US, everything is fine. And that was something that really, I think my family understood more as I was growing up and as I went to law school. And that was a really like big factor in my journey and why I decided to practice law and why I decided to practice really like grassroots level law. Something that a lot of South Asian people do is when they go to law school, especially if they don't go to med school, they do corporate law. But I am doing really just, the root of the law, which is helping people defend people. And I also do guardian ad litem work, and I also do a lot of juvenile work. So that is something that you see every day. It doesn't make a lot of money. It doesn't. But this is where you help people. This is where you help people defend themselves. This is where you help people know their rights. This is where you help also the legal community understand who they're dealing with too. A lot of times when, especially people of color, immigrants who come into the legal system, they don't know what's going on. It's very much like my parents. Oh, everything is fine. If you're in this country, everything is fine. No, if you don't know your rights and what's afforded to you, you will be taken advantage of. And so that is why I practice what I do. And that is why I'm passionate about being a part of the organization as well.
Thank you. And so I'm just curious again, of course I came also, I have a legal background, and I also, as a public defender, practiced sort of public service law that you're referring to. But I'm just curious, just briefly, in terms of, you talked about your experiences growing up. We know that women are now about 50% of law school classes, but what is your impression of working in the legal system, not only as a woman, but also a woman of a diverse background that a lot of people may not be familiar with?
So I was a prosecutor for a few years in Lancaster, Ohio, which is a very small town outside of Franklin County. It's a majority white community, Christian community. And it was, I think, a little bit of growing pains for everyone in that community because they didn't know what to make of me. I had a coworker who would joke to people like, oh, because people would go to him and ask, oh, where is she from? Is she Mexican? Is she this? Is she that? Like, oh my God, you're so offensive. She's from Guatemala. Like, that was his joke. And I was like, okay, well, you just have to take it. And then there was an officer, and I remember this so clearly. I was defending his case. It was his case. I was defending it. And in the middle of it, he asked me, he's like, so are you a citizen yet? And so these are the type of questions that I got as an attorney, as a woman practicing. And I don't think it was because I was a woman. I think it was just because of my skin color and they didn't know what. But there were times that I did feel my gender made a difference because when I shifted to private practice, I would go into courtrooms and they would ask me, well, are you the defendant? I'm like, no, I'm not the defendant. I'm in a suit. Most of the clients that come through court do not wear suits. Are you the secretary? No, I'm not the secretary. Are you the runner? No, I'm not the runner. A runner, for anybody who doesn't know, it just brings in files and paperwork. I'm the attorney. And it just blows people's minds because they have done it over and over again. Even recently, I have done it. People will cut in line and say, oh, I'm an attorney. I'm going to cut this line and I'm going to go. recently I just was like, I'm an attorney too. I'm standing right here. Please don't cut.
Yeah.
So it happens. And I think it does happen to women a lot more, that they get asked if they're the runner, they're the paralegal, the secretary. Oh, do you work for this person? No, you don't work for another person. So
Yes. Great. Yes, I can, having practiced, relate to that as well. Having been an attorney longer than a particular male colleague, and then my showing up to check in with him and being asked if I was his assistant. So yes, I relate. And I believe Binish, Hussain has joined us. Are you there, Binish?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Hi. Well, we're glad you made it. I know you had some travel difficulties, and we appreciate you, making it happen to be here. So essentially what we're asking is that you just give a brief introduction, tell folks about you. I know that, that you are a life and health coach, but we want to talk a little bit about your background. And then we're also talking about instances in your past where you felt empowered, and then equally important, instances in your past where you did not feel empowered.
Okay, thanks so much for the opportunity. I am honored to be here. Well, I started from Pakistan. That's where I was born and raised in a very typical household, which mostly, women are focused on household activities, with taking care of the family, cooking, cleaning, and which is amazing. And I'm not against all of that, but that was the focus. Although I was encouraged to study, but I wasn't really empowered as in being allowed to make my own decisions. Even trying to pick what I wanted to study wasn't an option for me. And who I'm gonna marry or anything. It was just like informed. This is the person you're getting married to. And these kind of things, I faced while I grew up, and that's exactly what happened to me. And I really had to take a back seat on every stage of my life as a decision maker. Like, I had no say in what I wanted to study, what I wanted to do in my life, and things like that. And when, around 2000, I got married and I moved to US and I had my kids. Another challenge I faced was I wanted to stay home and raise my kids as a stay-at-home mom. And I believe that my children have the rights on me, and I want to fulfill those rights. But I struggled as finding value in being a mother. It's an honorable, what do you say? Being a mother is so honorable that nothing beats that. So I was forced or insisted, like I couldn't find happiness or valued or worthy of being a good person or a positive person in a family, or a contributor towards the family, just because I wasn't working. And that did not, go well with me, because I wanted to give that time to my children. Eventually, I see in what I struggle with in my society, where I did not feel empowered, was the mindset of a woman just being a server to the family, regardless of whether she is working or not, whether she's a stay-at-home mom or not. She needs to serve and just keep serving until she dies, but there is no return, there's no value, there's no appreciation. You're still gonna hear comments and criticism from everywhere, so you're never enough. And I had to deal with this for the longest part of my life. And then there was a time where I was done with all of that. I struggled, I fought, I tried to convince people around me, and it wasn't working. And the battle inside of me pushed me towards learning my faith a little deeper. And because that's one thing that is being used to blackmail women, emotional blackmail, that this is your duty towards God, and that's how you're going to go to paradise and things like that. So, for the longest part, I believed all of those things too. But the struggle within myself that I was having, pushed me into learning more about my faith. And when I got to learn my faith, it just blew my mind how important the role of a woman is in the life of her family, in the life of in the society, and how important she is to herself also. And above all of this, how important she is to God. So I learned my role from the Quran, and that just transformed my life. And my struggle didn't end there, because now I was standing up for my rights. I was standing up for what I believed in. I was standing up for what I wanted to do. So I had to face some, resistance. And that continued for a long time until I had to put my foot down that this is it, period. And, there is no concept of boundaries in our society and the culture I belong from. I learned that from the Quran, which, most of the people don't see it in there, but I learned it from the Quran, and that empowered me because this is the word of God, and I see that nobody's above the word of God. So I realized that this is what God wants me to do, is to be a strong person, be someone who is happy within herself, and have a high self-esteem, a healthy self-esteem and confidence, and convey that to the next generation, as a mother, as a teacher. So I do work as a teacher as well in different capacities. And I am really like in close interaction with children. So that's where, my motherhood is just not limited to my children. It extends to all of my students and literally anybody who comes in contact with me. So I learned that from my faith, and I wanted to just continue that practice and spread that. The misunderstanding that Islam is prohibiting women from studying or working, or what if she wants to do something she can't, but that's not the case. So when I learned that, I applied it in my life. I had to face resistance, but I kept going on, and that's what led me to study to be a life coach, because now that I have learned something in my life, it changed my life. I want to make it happen for other people. I want to make sure that they are not suffering the way I did. I want to make sure they're not, stuck in their life for 10 years, 15, 20 years before they actually learn what's right for them, and that they do have the power to stand up for themselves and do what's right. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That is so beautiful. And it's so fascinating. I love that, you reached into your faith to find your empowerment when originally, there was the faith was being used in some way to actually diminish your power. And that, obviously it's valued, women raising the family, staying at home, doing that work, but then women expected to do that, and then when they're doing it, they're not valued for doing that. So that's amazing. What you shared with us, a lot to think about. Thank you. And I know, so next we would have had Safa Muhammad. She is traveling and not here, but she did record a clip for us, and I think Sister Zerqa has that for us.
I do, and I am putting it on right now. Let me just share my screen quickly, and I hope you guys, can you guys see?
Yes.
What I am, and I'm playing it now.
There she is, yes.
Thank you so much for joining this conversation today. I am so grateful to be a part of this group of amazing
Can you
women.
see it?
Thank you, Sister Zerqa, for
Yes.
and for everything that you do. And thank you to all the women here. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Safa Mohammed, and I am a first-year finance and political science student at The Ohio State University. I'm also director of My Reading Warriors, and I'm on the board for My Project USA. And so I'm really, really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to get the opportunity to have this conversation with you all. And I'll talk a little bit about what got me here in the lens of female empowerment. I have been very lucky to be a young person growing up today. I'm very lucky that I have parents who had always empowered me. My dad, he was someone who really emphasized the importance of public speaking and presentation skills from a very young age. So I had that confidence instilled in me, and I'm very, very fortunate for that. But I also wanted to thank Zerqa because she is always someone who empowered me. I started on the team of Reading Warriors, started on the e-board my freshman year of high school. Now I'm my freshman in college, but the opportunity to have been a part of that and to lead from such a young age, being trusted with that made such a difference to not only the opportunities that are available to me today, but just to my own confidence in myself and what I think I'm capable of. Because a lot of times you never know what you're capable of until you're given the opportunity to actually take something on and see firsthand what you can do with it. And so if Sister Zerqa had not had that trust in me, even when I was so young, and when who gives opportunities to freshmen in high school, right? So to have been given that chance made such a difference to my own sense of empowerment and what I think I'm capable of doing. So very grateful to you for that, Sister Zerqa. But I also wanted to talk about what it's like being a young person, being a part of Gen Z, and how empowerment fits into this conversation, especially with young people, because it's very easy for anyone to voice their opinions, right? Like technically everyone is empowered because you could at any time go onto Twitter and voice what you think about what's going on. But that raises the question of how do we stay intentional with the way that we empower, right? Like, how do we remain empowered in a very meaningful way? And so that comes down to empowering ourselves and empowering others beyond just virtue signaling. It's really easy to convey emotions and to take a moral stance, to align yourself with a set of morals. And in today's world, it's almost as though having the image of being a good person is more important than actually being a good person. And so I wanted to emphasize how, especially Gen Z, this is a really easy trap for us to fall into, but it's really important for us to, and all of us, to be intentional with our actions and to actually get involved with the work around us to empower. So what does empowerment mean? That means showing up for the communities around you and doing the work in person, getting your hands dirty, getting on your knees, doing what has to be done. It goes beyond just social media virtue signaling. It goes beyond just talking about things, and it means action. It means putting yourself out there and making those connections. And so I really, really am so grateful to get to be a part of these conversations, because these conversations are part of real mobilization. And so thank you all so much for being here.
So, so amazing, so much wisdom in that amazing young woman. It really bodes well for our future when you hear that. So I'm a little out of words, just I'm kind of in awe. She's amazing. I don't know, is Delia with us?
I don't know what happened. She is not responding
Okay,
right now, so maybe
all right,
something has happened. And as we
okay.
know that Safa is also driving, we asked her if she could if she could join for a little bit at some point, but we don't know if she will be available for more conversation. But I do want to say before you start the second round that I am so proud of Safa. And last time when board meetings, when she starts talking, and this is not the first one, we had other young women and men who have been serving on my Project USA board. We had Omar Dashi, we had Farida Akhtar and other Farida Eid and other people in the past, and they are all they amazes us because I think maybe it's right that we are putting them on these roles in earlier age and they are getting all these chances and they are coming out so mature when they are 18-year-old and 19-year-old. It's just amazing, amazes me. So yeah, alhamdulillah, thank you.
Yes, it is amazing. And I think, what Safa was saying is a great segue for our next round, which is again, and we talk about empowerment, and it's easy to talk about that, to share the meme, to share the quote on Facebook or social media. But, what are some specific actions that people can take to empower women? I'm going to ask each of you, specific instances or actions people could take to empower you, and then also if you have thoughts on empowering women in general. So we're going to start back with Katana.
Okay, so hearing everyone's story and gaining insight from those things, I think it just comes full circle. I think a lot of us just are wanting to feel seen or wanting to be heard. I think those things really, really, really mean a lot as far as being empowered. And I also feel that there are sometimes like a fear of judgment, right? That's not very empowering. Also, for me, a big thing is just lacking internal confidence. That's not empowering for myself, but it stems from a very deeply rooted place, from my inner child. So, growing up, nothing was very positive, other than just having to fight and survive to get out and push through those things. But um, as I've gotten older and as I've gone through different things in life and I've met new people, I have felt seen, I have felt heard. I've been in situations where I didn't have to hide. This environment right now, I feel like I can be myself, that you're listening and you're engaging. And I have internal confidence today. I can proudly say that this morning. I'm not always able to say that every day, but today I can say that. And just being in spaces where there's positivity. And I think really the biggest thing for me is just being able to be myself. For a long time, I've had to work really hard to prove myself to be capable. And it feels really good to just take a deep breath and exhale, knowing that Zerqa has given me an opportunity to just be myself and to do the things that I love to do and to serve along you beautiful people who do great work every single day in the lives of the young people and their families that we serve.
Thank you, Katana. That, a beautiful sentiment. And of course, I couldn't agree more that, and it's good we're moving on to Sister Zerqa, but yeah, I think we should, at least within this conversation and the broader community, never forget that, women like Zerqa have created opportunities for us to empower by creating that platform, doing the work in the community, setting up the infrastructure to make it easier for us to step in and lend a hand as well. So what would you like to say on the subject, Zerqa?
Can I go last? I really want to see, what others have to share. Is that okay?
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Thank you.
we'll go to Ajmeri next.
So for me growing up, I think what was empowering was having parents stand behind you. And I think that's very important in the Muslim community is when you do have a daughter specifically who is not um, going the traditional route, you need to have parents who are willing to stand behind you and support that decision. When I decided to go to law school instead of med school, my mother stood by that decision. My dad needed a little time, I'll be honest, but my mother was like, "This is if you're doing this, then you got to do it. Go for it." So having a strong parent say that they will support you no matter what is something that's extremely important in our community. And I think what created empowerment for me was also seeing other women in my community do those things, make a stand, become a working mom, become a part of, do service work, because that is not something that's emphasized for us. And so seeing other women do that is was very impactful for me. And what I would like to see other people in the community do is if they have daughters, also make sure they stand behind their daughters, but then I'll invite them into the conversation. Just like Zerqa is providing this conversation for us, it's very important to actually be intentional in your actions and invite women into the conversation. And that does not happen often in the Muslim South Asian community. And even the overall Muslim community is letting women sit with the men, letting women have a voice with the men, and then actually listening to her when she's speaking. That is something that would be very impactful and powerful empowerment for women in the Muslim community. And then also making sure that our girls who grow up, marriage is not, making sure they understand marriage is not the end all be all. There's even now, even today, they grow up and they're just like, if I don't get married, what's going to happen to me? There's many other things, good, beautiful things that can happen to you if you don't get married. And that's not the end goal. The end goal is more than just a marriage. And I understand that that's something that everybody wants for themselves, and that's great. But we as a community need to help our girls move past this. Marriage is the end all be all part of society. So that's really what I want to see happen.
Thank you. That's awesome. And I know you have a daughter, so she's very lucky to have you empowering her. So we're going to move to Binish, and I know Binish spends a lot of time empowering others as well, but let's hear her thoughts on ways to empower women.
So like our friend just mentioned, marriage is the ultimate goal in our society. I grew up the same way. Okay. When I got engaged, I was like, oh, wow, alhamdulillah. I mean, God has given me such a blessing, no doubt. But that was it for me. Okay. And I was really young. I was about 16 years old when I got engaged, and like 4 years later, I got married. But when I look back right now, now where I am, and I look back at myself at that age, I literally stopped growing, because my ultimate purpose was achieved at that point, that I was engaged and I was about to marry this person, and I'm going to dedicate my life to him, and literally spent a lot of time trying to fit that or reach that standard that was given to me, which kept going higher and higher, which I wasn't ever able to achieve. I wasn't able to reach that standard ever in my life. And that's what we all do. And that's what I feel like women are treated this way just so they can keep trying, that this is a misunderstanding in the society, that this is how you empower someone or teach someone how to be perfect or amazing or whatever. Which certainly that's not the case. That was like completely destroying me, damaging me. The amount of criticism I had to face was, I don't know how I survived that. And I'm sitting in front of you all here. I'm really happy that I was able to come out of it a better person. So that's what generally our society is doing to the girls, that we're being taught to just aim for this one goal in life. And I truly believe that it is a beautiful relationship. Marriage is a wonderful thing, but a woman has a lot of other roles in life too, which we completely ignore, and we should not be doing that. As soon as I realized that role in life, my life took a shift, and it was such an amazing shift that I don't ever want to go back. So as people who had empowered me or made my life easier or guided me in some way, there were many along the way. There is not one obvious or big person I can name, but there were a lot. And I'm not doing it because she's here, but Sister Zerqa is a huge impact on my life. You know, the way she the way she encourages me, and the way she treats me when I meet her. And we recently just met, and I was just surprised how much love she has to give to everybody. And you know, it's just overwhelming the way she treated me this time we met. So these kind of women have been in my life in different times, for short time or a longer time, but that's what has helped me. Definitely there were a group of women which were harming me, and there were a group of women which were helping me. So I was able to recognize, and I was able to differentiate between the two groups. And yeah, so how I help other people is, that's the kind of profession I picked, that anyone who comes in contact with me, whether they're my client or not, most of the women feel very comfortable talking to me, and that's a great blessing from God. And so every girl in the family or friends or my daughter or daughter's friends, anyone who comes in contact with me, there is a way to empower them. There is a way that when they open up to you, they speak about different challenges. I provide them a safe space, a completely zero judgment zone where they can open up and relax and chill and say whatever they want, and they're not going to be judged. So when you allow this space around the kids or any other person, even not only women, even men, anybody, they open up, they relax, and when they share, and when they're in this state, they are open to suggestions also. So that helps me to guide them, to empower them, to encourage them, to even advise them, and they're able to receive that advice from me, alhamdulillah. So that's how my life has been.
That's amazing. And I love your point that, the empowerment doesn't necessarily have to be grand gestures. We can do it moment by moment when the opportunities occur. When you have that young person in that space for just that minute, that's an opportunity to empower. And I also, Binish, really want to thank you for how candid and authentic that you have been here with us today. I really feel, again, we've known each other for a while, but I feel like I know you so much better. And I just really, really appreciate, again, your candor and how authentic you are, and how brave you are. And I know you've shared a lot that I've learned a lot, and I know a lot of others have learned a lot from you today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
And back to Sister Zerqa.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. So thank you so very much. This is so inspiring. And one thing that I feel like I need to say in every single program that we do at my project is that, please, this is not about me. So don't start talking about what I have done. And I know that this becomes, sometimes I feel like, getting embarrassed of then people start talking about, how I have helped people or how I made a difference. But alhamdulillah for that. All praise goes to God. I am humbled for God has given me this opportunity that I could create. But yeah, I mean, I have 3 daughters. And those 3 daughters, when I had my first daughter, I made that commitment that I will make sure that we give them everything possible that will empower them. And then as I grew as a mother, I grew as an adult, and I saw what I saw, I really felt that this is so important. So in the context, the questions you're asking, Judge, today is that there are a few things that I do want to cover. And this is, I think I am extremely lucky. And I heard that from Katana, from Ajmeri, from Binish, from Safa. Even Safa is the youngest one among them, that we all are extremely lucky people. We are so privileged that we have so many positive people in our lives. So when Binish was talking about this, these women who supported her, I can also totally, relate that the time that I say the dark era of my life, those 6 years when I was did not felt really appreciated at home, but then I had these sisters who made sure in the community who were there for me, and I was 21, 22-year-old young mother, husband is not there, my parents are overseas, I'm alone there, and then they were there to support. So when we come here, especially I'm talking about immigrant women like me and Binish, who came here as adults because of our marriage, I think a lot could be done. A lot could be done. And that's the purpose of this conversation today, is definitely to start that space. So I want to cover a few points as an experience, as a professional person, as a person who is also coming from the community that is having all of these things. I think that what people need to know is there are different stages of lives. And in those stages, we cannot paint every woman with the same brush. Just we can't. I am 54-year-old. I'm hearing from some of the my old friends or the siblings of the friends that are a little older than us, that how the family expect them just to be a babysitter. Just to be a babysitter for the grandchildren right now. And I mean, maybe there are women, and I know women who have actually made arrangements and just made that point that now I'm going to take care of my grandchildren, and that's completely fine. That's very noble. But then there are women who cannot do it physically, who are not ready for it, who now that they have struggled all their lives, they want that break and they want to be themselves. So I think one thing that people need to understand in our communities, that you have to give the woman the choice in all stages of her life. That's empowering. You cannot expect just, we understand that now the children are grown and they have young children, they want a safe place. They have to remember the struggle of their parents also and give them a break at the point. It shouldn't be forced, and kind of like, many people say we are not forcing, but actually it is the expectation set by the family, and sometimes for adult children, it's too much to handle. And there's so many women that I know have left their profession or the work they want to do for community, including some of the people who were on our board. They just couldn't do it because their family expected them to be the babysitter or caretaker. I have also seen in our community, and the women of my age, that people expect and sometimes actually blame them for any bad health or issues with their husbands. Well, the husband himself is a grown-up adult. They have their own choice. They have their own lifestyle. I mean, women can do only so much. Women, after giving them 25, 30 years of their lives, cooking for them, taking care of them, everything. I mean, the man has to grow up and has to be responsible and do changes and adapt and take care of themselves. So these are the two things that I would say from the community that I come from, which is Pakistani or Middle Eastern or Muslim community in general, which has a little bit more. I'm not sure what expectations are set for a white woman and other sisters in the community, but this is something that I would say would be empowering for adult children to understand where their mothers are and really support them in their journey and this stage when they are 50 plus and they want to have their own lifestyle when they are not responsible on little children. They need to have their space. The other thing, I also then come to the professional side. So something which is very interesting, and Ajmeri touched upon that, is that, how Bangladesh has all these women leaders. Same as for Pakistan. We had Benazir Bhutto when I was like, coming out of my teenage, got 19-year-old, and I had the first women prime minister there. So we have this very rich history of women leadership in politics. So when I go and hear, and the Hillary Clinton was running for elections and all of that, and people will come and say, it is so empowering. And I feel like, or they will ask me, oh, definitely it's a good idea that you are now involved in politics. And I would say, you know what, I'm coming from Pakistan, which is very democratic, where there's a lot of election. It's a different story that how the governments are being run. For us being part of election and to see women in politics and leadership and top bosses of their countries is common in Sri Lanka and Indonesia and Bangladesh and Pakistan. So this is also, I would say, for the American sisters to understand and people to understand that do not judge us because we are active in politics here, that this is some kind of, extra privilege we have here in America. We are coming, many of us are coming from countries that are already empowered and have seen women on higher level of leadership than what we see in America. And I feel sad. I really feel sad for American women that we are still struggling, and it's a big deal. And happy that we have Vice President Kamala Harris as a, VP of our nation right now, but how much, stigma is around it and how much, things. Right now, when we talk about somebody running an election here in Ohio itself, is like, so, the first question is, if this is a woman, can she run against a man in suit? And that is sad, because we are not judged by our experience, our background, our anything. We are judged by, our gender, literally by our gender. And when it comes to that, I would say that a lot of us, and I believe that this happens to American sisters, white sisters, Black sisters also, that we are not judged as if we are seasoned, experienced people. So when I do something, and when people, especially in our community, people would not take me serious for the longest time. I couldn't wait to be 40 years old. I remember the day I turned 40 years old, I was going around and so happy because people would not take me serious, because they say, this is a woman, this is a brown, hijabi, niqabi, whatever woman, regardless of my background, regardless of my experience. So I would say you can empower sisters like me or women in professional spheres by respecting their experience, by respecting what they bring to the table, by respecting what they have done in past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever they are. I mean, at this point, I have been in professional field for 30 years. And there is a lot I have done. So I should be judged regardless of my gender. I should be judged by who I am and what I have done and what is my portfolio, not because I'm a woman, not because I am a hijabi or I'm a Muslim or I'm a brown or immigrant person. And I think that is very important if you want to empower. The other thing, were you saying something, Judge? The other point I wanted to cover is faith. Faith, that, how Binish talked about it. Muslim women, especially because there's so much money has been spent on Islamophobia, and Islamophobia as an industry in America after 9/11, that people literally believe that Muslim women can't do anything, or they can't even speak English. I still go to places where people would not talk to me. They would talk to my husband, thinking that I am not able to speak English. And even in Muslim country, back in Pakistan, when I was running this TV channel there, the people would not give me respect until I would start speaking English, and they would say, oh, she is an educated person. So I want to say, and this is what I said to one of my colleagues at NBC 17 back in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they were asking me, why are you so happy? And I said, being a Muslim woman, you should not be so happy, because, the media tells them that Muslim women are so, controlled and abused and all of that. So, and I told him I'm very happy, because according to Islam, my money is my money and my husband's money is my money. And they were like, what does that mean? And I said, that's true, because Islam allows me to work, but it allows me to keep my inheritance to myself. So we people, general American people, sisters and brothers, need to understand that Muslim women, if they are coming from a practicing Muslim family which actually understand Islam and implement Islam, Muslim women are very privileged women, and they have control on the wealth. They can work, they can do. I'm not talking about those, theories that people have put in the name of Islam out there, from ISIS to whoever is out there. I'm talking about actual practicing Islam, and which is why Binish found this, this whole faith, when as soon as she understood, she felt empowered. Same as my story, same as a story for many, many women who cover because they want to cover. They decide, they work, they keep their money to themselves, and they are liberated. Islam gave us a right to vote at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not now. And I know that, I mean, how long has American women have got the right to vote? Just recently, just maybe 100 years ago, right? So this is where we are, and we need to understand other culture, other faith. And I'm not just talking about Southeast Asian culture because I'm from there. I'm talking about all over the country, all over the world. There are people who may have been more privileged, may have been more, given more opportunities. And we as American community need to understand and start supporting that part on that side. And I think I just want to say one thing, two more things. One is, as a leader in this community, in Central Ohio and also in America, I've done domestic violence work and a lot of other works. I want to say that if you want to support me, I appreciate when people come and say, "Oh, I love you. I want to support you. I'm here for women empowerment." That truly you can support me when you stand with me when the people are attacking on me, when the people are slandering me, when the people are going around and confusing the community, and they're not, because of their own personal agendas, because of their own personal benefits. I think our community should be smart enough. I think our community should really dig into, not because if it's coming from an imam who is a man, or it's coming from so-and-so. Please think beyond it. Judge, do your homework, go after and check it out. And once you know the truth, and if you don't know, reach out to the people you are hearing about, and reach out to people who are around them. Reach out to the board members, reach out to the other people. Do not follow a man's lead just because he's a man. And once you do that, you understand it, be vocal. Your vocal support is needed for any women-led organization, because when you don't support vocally, then you are stopping all those donations. You are helping, kind of enabling those people who are doing the slandering because they don't want that support to come to the organization. So the community suffers. So when you see any women being, nailed because she's a woman, she's leader, she's outspoken, you should stand up. And I'm saying it because in domestic violence, networking, I have seen tons and tons of domestic violence advocates all over the country who suffer because they stand up for the domestic violence victims, and they are always scrutinized because they are seen as they are doing something wrong with these women, and they have an agenda against men. We don't have agenda against men. We have agenda against injustice. We have agenda against wrong being done to any child or any woman or man. So we need to have that, if you want to empower people like us, you need to stand with us. You need to clear this. You need to reach out. And the last thing you can really do to support women of any age, now and later, is to raise your sons. To raise your sons to respect women, to give that space to women, to give them that, value that they can actually support women, their daughters, their wives, their sisters, and everybody else beyond in their circles. Because if we raise our sons right, if we raise brothers right, I think we can change the world big time, and we can make it easy. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many amazing points, Zerqa. And I love, being the white woman on this panel. I cannot emphasize enough how important these conversations are in terms of education. Because, as you alluded to, Americans can be quite ethnocentric. There is tons of propaganda that tells us, that we've got the market cornered on equality and justice, and we know that's not the case. as you said, we've yet to have a woman running this country, and yet there are Islamic countries where that happens. And so, that's why these conversations are so important. I think, in addition to everything else, in addition to talking about specific acts of empowerment, is simply the more we know honestly about each other, the better we treat each other, and the better we do. So I know we're wrapping up here. I don't know if anyone sees any comments or questions from viewers. If I don't, I know we have two other guests on the panel. Was there anyone that wanted to say anything? Jennifer or Angelica? Angelica, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, the other thing that we do want to mention, first of all, we are so grateful for you all tuning in today and taking part in this important conversation. And again, what I was saying is, my Project USA, this is not just a month or a day. This is a day in and day out mission. And so we would like to keep this conversation going. And we are thinking of making it a monthly conversation with different women, different topics, but again, a safe space for women to share and to educate and support and empower one another. So if that's something that you're interested in, any of our viewers, please put that in the comments, that's something you would like to see, any suggestions you have for topics that we can cover, because again, it's the ongoing conversation that is important, that we have to keep the conversation going, and we have to be intentional in lifting one another up, because we are in fact in this together. So that's all I have, other than to thank you all, amazing, incredible women. I learned so much. I know our viewers learned so much. I don't know if Sister Zerqa has any closing remarks or anyone else, but I just want to say that this was an amazing way to spend the morning, and I'm sure our viewers feel the same way.
I'm just wondering if any other participants also wants to say something before we close. Binish?
Yeah, I wanted to say something.
Yes.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, Sister Zerqa, that we need to raise our men, inshallah. What I wanted to add to that is everything has to start from home. I'm a mother to a boy, I'm a mother to a girl, and I am so grateful to God to give me both genders here to raise. And of course, it's something that has played a huge role in my life, because that's a responsibility on my shoulders. Now I have to raise someone's future husband and someone's future wife. And I don't want to raise them the way I was raised. And the ability to see that, and the awareness God has given me to differentiate between the right and the wrong, and the effects of it, which are visible in my life, or I see in other kids or other people of my generation suffering from some traumas, or of whatever leftover is with them right now. If you are not aware of what you are struggling with, and you are not dealing with it the right way, you are going to definitely transfer it to the next generation. Okay, so to be a cycle breaker, you got to take the hit. It's going to be hard. You're going to be stuck sometimes. You're going to be like being pushed from both sides. There is a side which is telling you to stick to the traditions, and then there's a side that's telling you that no, these kids are different, we cannot raise them the way we were raised. So that awareness and knowledge and wisdom is very, very important to raise the next generation, because we all women are also mothers, and we have the next generation in our hands. So it's a huge responsibility on our shoulders. So inshallah, I mean, that's my goal in life. I tried all my best. My son is 19 now, kind of consider him like I've cut the cord now, pretty much, because he's out of the house. But I tried and I did all what I could and I'm still working on him, and I'm still working on my daughter and raising them both to be best human beings, as they can be, to be positive impact on anyone else's life, to be responsible adults in future, inshallah. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great closing message that, we empower each other, we're empowering future generations, we're raising the future. So we want to do it as kindly and equitably and empoweringly as we can. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are so happy to have you here. Please, again, in the comments, let us know if you'd like to see future events, suggestions, or if you'd like to join our panel. We would love to hear from you. So everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for joining. Really appreciate that. Take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.